Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Luke Beller, and today we're going to be talking about Robert Tonyan, who is scheduled to be a restricted free agent, and there's tons of possible scenarios that could go down with him being a restricted free agent, possibly, another team coming in and offer him some kind of contract. So I'll break down that entire situation in this video. But if you guys are new to the channel, I put out Packers content 6 times a week, news, analysis, breakdowns, so if you want to see any of that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. So taking a look at this entire Robert Tonyan situation, we all know he was a beast in the 2020 season. Aaron Rodgers trusted him a ton. He tied Travis Kelce with 11 touchdowns, 4 tight ends in the 2020 season. And so now with him being a restricted free agent, there are 3 possible things that could go down. So there are 3 different tenders that can be offered to restricted free agents. So the first thing is the right of first refusal, which basically means if the Packers are like, okay, we're going to put this right of first refusal on him, a team, if they were to offer, Tonyan an offer, the Packers have the chance to potentially match that offer. But if the Packers decide, okay, we don't want to match this offer from another team, and Robert Tonyan goes to the other team, the Packers get nothing in return. And the number for the right of first refusal is $2.1 million. So now moving to the second round tender. Basically, similar situation. If a team offers Tonyan something, the Packers are like, nah, we don't want to pay him that, then the Packers will get a second round tender in return. And then for the first round tender, if a team, sends an offer, the Packers are like, no, the Packers basically get a first round tender from that team. So taking a look at each of these possible scenarios, there's a different number set to each one. The right of first refusal is $2.1 million. So let's say they put that on Tonyan. No one sends an offer. He counts as $2.1 million for the 2021 season. For the second round tender, he costs $3.38 million if no one sends in an offer, and for the first round tender, it costs $4.76 million if no one else sends in an offer. So basically, the reason the Packers would maybe put a first round tender or a second round tender on him is just to ensure that other team is less likely to send in an offer. Because let's say, for example, the Packers put a right of first refusal onto Robert Tonyan. Another team could come in and say, okay, well, maybe we'll offer Tonyan, $5-10 million to come play for us. And, in that scenario, if the Packers were like, oh, shoot, we don't want to do that, if they were to let him go, they absolutely, they get nothing in return. As opposed to the first and second round tender, the Packers are like, okay, well, maybe it's worth it if we get, a first round pick or a second round pick. So that's sort of the 3 possible scenarios with the restricted free agent. Now, I was reading an article from Bill Huber at Sports Illustrated, and he was basically making the point that another team, could potentially look at Robert Tonyan, potentially see him as a guy that they would like to pay. Maybe they have some salary cap space, and maybe they need, a better tight end on their team. Let's say they look at the Packers and they're like, okay, the Packers have a tough salary cap situation. Let's send in an offer to Tonyan that basically is loaded in the front, that makes it tough for the Packers to want to match just because of their, salary cap situation at the moment. Bill Huber was making that point that maybe a team could come in and do that because Robert Tonyan has been one of the best tight ends in this 2020 season. And so I think the question really is what is a team willing to pay Robert Tonyan? So taking a look at his 2020 stats, 52 receptions, 586 yards, which ranked 13th in the NFL, and then he's 11 touchdowns, tied for first with Travis Kelce. So as you take a look right here at his stats right here, these are the top 10 tight ends ranked from most touchdowns. As you can see, Travis Kelce 11, Robert Tonyan 11, and the difference between some of these guys, especially the top 3, as you can see, Travis Kelce was averaging 9.6 targets per game, Darren Waller 9.06 targets per game, and Robert Tonyan was only averaging 3.69 targets per game. But it really does beg the question, how good could he be if a team really, wanted to get him the ball? And then taking a look at some more stats for Tonyan. When Aaron Rodgers targeted him, Aaron Rodgers had a passer rating of a 148.4, which is just crazy. And in all of his targets, he had 0 drops, had an 88% catch rate, also crazy. And if you take a look at all Packers players who had a minimum of 10 targets on the offense, Tonyan had the highest percentage of passes caught for first downs, with 56% of his passes caught, which were for first downs. So that's a pretty crazy stat. It sort of shows just how much Aaron Rodgers trusts him, with him not dropping the ball, with him having an 88% catch percentage. Aaron Rodgers trusts Robert Tonyan, trusts him in the red zone, and that's sort of what we saw in the 2020 season with Robert Tonyan definitely breaking through. So now the question is, how much would a team want to pay him? So here's the top 15 tight ends, basically ranked from basically how much they're getting paid per year. As you can see, George Kittle, $15 million per year. Down here at 15th, we have Nick Boyle at $6.5 million per year. So I think you could say that definitely he would be in the top 15. So at least, maybe a team would see him as, being willing to pay him $6.5 million. Maybe top 10. So maybe 8.5, $9 million. So maybe a team who really wants a tight end, really, sees value in Tonyan would be willing to offer him that kind of money. And with that potential scenario, you would just think that the Packers would likely want to put a first or second round tender on him, just so a team is, that less likely to want to put up a big offer like that onto the table. And, because if they did do a right of first refusal offer, another team is much more likely to want to come in and put up a bigger offer on Robert Tonyan. But at the same time, Robert Tonyan has been a beast, and I think he's very crucial for this Packers offense right now, and I think it's definitely in the Packers' best interest to keep him around. So I think they will do their best to keep him. That's my personal opinion. So I'd assume they'd put maybe a first or second round tender on him, but you never know. And then another possible scenario, they could come in and say, okay, maybe a team wants to come in and pay Tonyan. How about we just, sign him to a long-term contract right now? Because if the Packers see him as their, future at tight end, which I feel like they should see him at that, as that guy, they could come in, maybe sign him to a 2-year, 3-year contract, maybe push some money down the road, for their salary cap situation. So there's so many potential scenarios with Robert Tonyan. But that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the next video.